For the big headline this evening, the G7 summit has commenced in Italy. Leaders have agreed on an outline deal to provide $50 billion of loans for Ukraine. This will be done using interest from Russian assets frozen after Moscow's invasion of its neighbor in 2022. U.S. President Biden said that Ukraine will be provided with 5 Patriot missile defense systems. He said, and I quote, "Everything we have is going to Ukraine until its needs are met," end of quote. The leaders also shared a light moment as they attended a skydiving demonstration program in a golf course. The Gaza conflict, artificial intelligence, Africa are some of the other important items on the agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also arrived in Italy. He is scheduled to hold crucial bilateral meetings with G7 leaders over the next few days. It is expected that the Indian delegation will bring up key issues faced by the global south. This is Modi's first foreign trip since he took charge as India's Prime Minister for the 3rd time. Sanjay Suri joins us now from Puglia in Italy. Sanjay, what's the mood like at the G7 summit?
A lot of world divisions have got a lot sharper here at the G7 in Puglia, here in the south of Italy. We have a decision from G7 here to fund Ukraine's war against Russia with loans against interest on frozen Russian assets. That is a move to which Russia has threatened a strong retaliation. A peace summit follows now in Switzerland, but after the hardening of G7 positions here in Italy, that peace summit is beginning to look already more like a war summit. A toughening with Russia is the prime outcome of the G7 here. From India, Prime Minister Modi has been consolidating India's position through the big outreach summit, as it is called. That is the session on the 2nd day, and that is when a lot of invited leaders, not from the G7, address the G7. He's also held a number of bilateral meetings with a number of G7 members, with President Macron and with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in the early part of the day. And then we have meetings due with Chancellor Scholz, with Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, of course, and with other leaders likely to follow later in the day. The Prime Minister continues to push India's case for a greater say for the global south. But that, of course, is an effort, that is a process. We are not looking at some big bang outcome on that score at the G7 here. But a footnote. The original G7, we think, would be a gathering of the great and grand, but consider Prime Minister Sunak of Britain is as good as gone 3 weeks from now. The party of Chancellor Scholz of Germany won just 13% of the vote in the EU elections just concluded, and those elections really rattled Macron. He had to suspend the National Assembly because of the win of the far right. The popularity on the other side of Prime Minister Ishida of Japan is down to 21%. He may have to go in September. The popularity of Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada is at a record low, and he's expected to lose next year. Biden has his back to the wall against Trump. Only Prime Minister Meloni is on a winning streak. Someone here described this as a gathering of one triumphant woman and 6 dead men walking.
This decision to confiscate or to freeze $350 billion of Russian central bank assets, which are largely in Belgium, and use the interest on these $5 billion a year to pay off the loan, loan payment by Ukraine for $50 billion aid to them is outrightly against international law.
US can ill afford to antagonize China at this juncture, because if China and Russia were to formalize a military alliance, that would be America's worst geopolitical nightmare come true. So the deeper the West gets involved in the Ukraine war, the less space they have to deal with China's expansionism.
One of the key issues would be the global digital infrastructure. That was a major point of focus. And AI, which is part of the global digital infrastructure, is one of the items on the agenda of the G7.
That's the latest from the